And it
Excellent.
worked.
Yay. I see what you mean about it being dark. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty dark. Oh, well, what can we do?
We promise we'll have lighting next week.
Yeah. Oops. I can
Oh, look,
turn
you
this
have your
down.
sound on.
Yeah.
Oh, no. So nice.
All right. No more time traveling with the audio there. Well, this is now Bridge to a Better World. I'm Teresa Mitchell. That's Ani Raven Haynes. And we're glad to be here. I'm glad to be here.
Yay, we have conquered the tiny spinner.
We had conquered yeah, boy, there was some spinning going on. So
And it wasn't
I'll
just inside my head this morning.
No. This is one of those mornings. I got up bright and shiny, and I've been organized. I put all my pills in little boxes, and so I opened up the little box, dumped it in my hand, popped it in my mouth, swallowed it down, and looked down, and it said bedtime pills, which includes 30 milligrams of melatonin. So what happens when you take 30 milligrams of melatonin in the morning?
When I see her nod off, I will.
If it looks like I have narcolepsy, no.
Gently tap her.
Okay. It could be a Muppet adventure. The wrong pills. So anyway, I'm just going to plow into the headlines. Headline number 1 is going to sound familiar. Storm Elias dumped several months' worth of rain in less than a day as it swept across Greece on Wednesday, just weeks after Storm Daniel killed 17 people in a southern European nation. That's from CNN. And you're probably thinking, wait, that's last week's news. It is. It's also today's news.
And likely next month's news.
Well,
let's face facts.
Here's hoping not. Anyway, they say villages were flooded, roads were inundated, and which is like flooded, And so actually, that's good writing. You use a different word.
It is good writing.
And schools were forced to close in different municipalities as Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis mobilized state emergency services and military personnel to boost defenses in areas including the northern region. That's like the northern region, including the northern region. The Greek fire service had moved more than 3,000 people, or if I could say it like Amy Goodman, 3,000 people to safer locations since Tuesday as the weather deteriorated. On Wednesday night, the European Severe Weather Database announced that months' worth of rain had fallen within the preceding 24 hours and more is on the way, with the storm expected to continue at least through Thursday with heavy rain, hail, and thunder, which I bet they're really tired of right now. So there's news from the world of the union. And one of those pieces of news is you get to see your favorite clowns again pretty soon. The writers' strike is over.
Now, I'm personally delighted that the writers' strike is over and that the writers have prevailed in almost all of their requests. But I'm really excited that we get late night comedians back because, the last 150 days or so, there's been a lot of news going on. And I don't know about you, but I need humor to help me process that.
I need the clowns.
And really, if it weren't for Seth Meyers and Stephen Colbert and John Oliver, I would be a much sadder person today. And I have absolutely missed them helping me make sense of the Michigas that we find ourselves
in. Or at least laughing at it,
that helps me make sense of it.
Some of the Michigas in Michigan. Doubtless others have noticed this, but it's interesting how different rags cover the story. I mean, WSWS, for example, is saying, I mean, what do you think that they're going to say? They're going to say, oh, they sold out. That contract wasn't nearly as good as it could be. And we need WSWS there. We need the Trotskys there to say that aspect of it. So I thought, well, let's learn.
Can you say what WSWS is for folks that may not
World Socialists WS? I don't know. World Socialist World Service or something. I don't know. It's the Trotskys anyway. Bless them. And well, I love them. Just don't agree with them completely. But they do a lot of work, and a lot of what they put out there it's worth looking at. But the militant is not worth looking at anymore. For years and years, oh my gosh, when I first started doing Press Watch in Austin, Texas in 1986, I think, late 86, maybe early 87, I would often turn to the militant.
I got you one better.
Yeah?
When I was 13, I sold the militant on the street corners of downtown Portland.
Well, it had some awesome reporting
Yeah, that would have been 79, 80.
Yeah, and then after that, it started getting some kind of strange reporting. And what's been happening is that they've been having just, I mean, like some other institutions I could name, they've been having a generations long struggle with, frankly, CIA provocateurs. And now the CIA provocateurs pretty much own the militant. And if you turn, their front page is how Trump is being treated wrong and democracy is being damaged by indicting and presumably convicting Trump on the various crimes that he has committed.
But enough about the militant and how they have gone terribly, terribly wrong. What about this contract victory?
Well, the contract victory, 300 employees at Kumho Tires will receive a 3.5% annual wage increase. That just ain't much, but it's a big deal because this is the first tire manufacturer unionization in I don't know how long. They're sort of like Walmart. They fight tooth and nail to keep unionization from happening. But the NLRB, as I've been saying, has been changed by the Biden administration. And now when you start union proceedings, you actually have a good chance of winning. Tell people there's a good reason for that. It has to do with the ratification process. I won't go into those details now, but they won clear procedures for transferring between positions, and these positions now have grades meant to keep a worker's pay in line with the strenuousness of their job. Strenuousness of that word. Any paid time off they will use, it will count towards overtime pay. Workers will have paid lunches, which will cut the length of some employees' shifts without reducing their pay. And pay is so important right now. Pay raises are so important because they are so low. They are poverty wages across the nation. It is really hard to find a job that is not a poverty job.
And the reason for that, of course, is inflation and cost of housing have continued to rise as wages continue to stagnate, or at least wages for the working classes, as the CEOs, of course, see record-breaking bonuses year after year. It's kind of like the system is rigged in favor of the rich.
And the rich suckered the old population, implying a couple of decades ago that if you just increased your intellectual capacities, we'll increase the wages. What a lie. Ask anyone who codes for a living. Anyway, from In These Times, article by Jeff Shirky, pointed out that Joe Biden became the first sitting U.S. president to join a picket line when he visited the striking United Auto Workers members outside a GM parts facility in Bellevue, Michigan. As soon as I saw that, I was just like, what? Because sure, they'll come there when they're candidates. Never, ever has a president come and stood on the picket line. And then the things he said, you guys, UAW, you saved the automobile industry back in 2008 and before. That's an understatement. Quoting, you made a lot of sacrifices. You gave up a lot when the companies were in trouble, but now they're doing incredibly well. And guess what? You should be doing incredibly well too, end quote. He said incredibly well.
So I think that this is really noteworthy, and I think this is laudable, and I think it is commendable. And I don't say that about Biden often.
Credit where credit is due.
But credit where credit is due, as opposed to seeing some posts online from some folks who I guess are just the most radical ever, who said that the union has besmirched themselves by standing by letting that class traitor stand next to the union president. And I just, that kind of, how do we say,
Trotskyists?
I was going to say purists, really.
Yeah, it's the purity league.
That kind of purism does not advance us. It does not help us move forward. That tears us down. I think credit where credit is due is really important. We want to encourage those that actually hold political power in this country to do the right effing thing. We want to encourage Biden and future presidents, for that matter, to be on the sides of the workers with a bullhorn, to be on the picket lines, to actually throw down with the people of this country. When politicians start doing that, I'm personally going to do a damn jig, and I hope y'all will join me in doing a damn jig. I'm used to people like Rashida Tlaib walking the picket line, and she did. As soon as the strike was called, Rashida Tlaib, whose father was an auto worker, was out there. And we need our congressional leaders to do things like that. And I want to commend Biden for actually following through and saying that he believes that the auto workers saved the auto industry and that the auto industry is doing well because of its workers, and the workers need to be doing well. Give the man some props.
Exactly. I mean, I'm a little C commie, and I believe that
I'm a big
these.
A anarchist.
All right then, with a circle. Um, and I think these criticisms need to be out there, and we need to keep it in mind. But when it comes to taking action, if someone wants you to join the Junior Anti-Sex League, just say no.
And John is absolutely right. The perfect is the enemy of the good. And I have not to mention on the pragmatic level, it keeps us stagnant as a movement. It keeps us fighting with each other instead of progressing. It's also just damn tiresome. Okay,
Yeah, I have to
carry
agree.
on.
So, all right, and climate and education advocates yesterday cheered the introduction in the U.S. Congress by Senator Ed Markey and Representative Jamal Bowman of the Green New Deal for Public Schools Act. This is from Common Dreams. Brett Wilkins wrote it. Lawmakers said it would invest 1.6 trillion to transform the nation's education system, while quote creating 1.3 million jobs and eliminating 78 million metric tons of carbon emissions over 10 years. End quote. Now this is their bill, and it ain't going to get passed. But it's ideas that need to get out there. And so a statement promoting the proposed legislation said it would, quote, fund green upgrades that would remove all health harms and carbon pollution from every public school in the nation while taking on environmental and racial inequities, end quote. And what it reminded me of is the WPA. Good things were done for infrastructure by the WPA. This could be a WPA that could improve our education in our schools and just improve life generally in so many ways. When you have good schools, when they're just really jumping, everybody's smiling. Next story from Mother Jones by Michael Mechanic. America's rich deadbeats just won't stop dead beating. And they're talking about what Ron Wyden's been up to, our Ron Wyden. On Thursday, Senate Finance Committee Chair Ron Wyden, Democrat of Oregon, revealed that his committee had IRS data for tax years 2017 to 2020, showing that more than 1.4 million wealthy Americans had neglected to file a federal return. That's right, they just didn't file under Trump. All told, these shirkers potentially owe the government as much as $66 billion. And when you hear that, for example, when Trump was crowing that he had cut back the IRS, everyone hates the IRS, right? But the millions that were going to go into the IRS to hire agents were to counter the rich. And this is no exaggeration. That's what they were for. I mean, they can always bust little people like us. We're cheap and easy. It takes almost nothing.
Speak for yourself.
More than, well, I am litigious, but more than 10,000 of them.
It's just cheap and easy. I'm not cheap and easy.
More than 10,000 rich people, Wyden wrote in a letter to the IRS commissioner, were repeat offenders. Perhaps, I want to use the word recidivist. They are recidivists. Perhaps most alarming, he noted, quote, was the extraordinary amount of unpaid taxes owed by a small subset of ultra-wealthy non-filers, end quote. They included 8,700 people who had potentially owed more than $500,000 each. Nearly 1,000 had incomes in excess of $1 million a year. The top 500 non-filers each year, 2,000 of them all told, owed
That's a lot of numbers. Wait, I'm confused.
Okay, well, it gets all tied. It all gets tied up here.
Okay.
All owed nearly a billion. Yet only two were under active criminal investigation. Only 58 had been subjected to liens and levies. So what about add that up, and what about the other 8,600 and change? I think Americans are rightfully concerned, he said, when very wealthy families use loopholes and accounting strategies to avoid paying their fair share. The people in this letter didn't even bother with any of that. They don't have to file, and they know it. And if they get trouble for it, they've got very powerful lawyers that they can just bring in line to push off and to delay the IRS until after their death. This is literally one of the methods that is used. And
Absolutely.
so that is, and the show today does not include the sort of rant that I like to add in there. The sort of essay that I like to write. Today was just those headline stories plus Ani's intuitive
Well, I have
view
a couple of things.
the world.
I mean, I think it's important to note that Dianne Feinstein died. Dianne Feinstein passed, and Uh, there's the immediate question about what this means for the Democrats, what it means for elections. I've seen people talking about how courageous she was in the 70s and 80s.
Cool. But when she was on the
point
of death,
personally, for the last many years, have not seen the point of her continuing in the Senate as any kind of political good. Yet she has kept a seat warm for Democrats.
well,
I find that kind of limited use.
It was very limited use at the end because she held everything up, and
Yeah,
I guess the pain is that that seniority is now lost. I'm sure that another Democrat will be elected, so that'll be okay.
Yeah, I'm seniority and the way that the Senate is hooked up. I suppose that is a concern.
Yeah,
but when you have a senior official who is frankly anti-progress, Feinstein was anti-progress. She was a mainstream centrist Democrat. And I think centrist Democrats are really a huge part of the problem. They're one of the reasons we are where we're at. I cannot stress enough how much I support progressive Dems, truly progressive Dems, like Rashida Tlaib, like Ilhan Omar, like AOC, like Cory Booker. These folks give me life, right? And others who have joined the progressive Dems and been very outspoken against the corruption of the system. Those folks are my hope. Feinstein, on the other hand, I just want to remind folks that she is the senator who met with a group of high school students in 2019, wherein basically this group of high school students from the Sunrise Movement and from Youth versus Apocalypse, which is another anti-climate change, uh, anti-climate disaster, please let us live youth group from the Bay Area. They visited her office and suggested that she support legislation that put some teeth in some climate change laws, some environmental laws, to try to work with mitigating the climate change that's happening. And again, this is 4 years ago, and we see 4 years later things are so much worse than many computer models predicted they would be. And what she said to them, she said, "This is not practical. There's no money. I'm not going to fight for this. This is bad legislation."
And she was a real snot about it to those kids, too.
That is my point. Yes. That in fact, she says, "I want to let children know they were heard loud and clear, and that she is committed to doing everything she can to enact real meaningful change in legislation." She says they had a spirited discussion and that the group, she presented the group with a draft resolution that has her responses. But that heated discussion, uh, in that heated discussion, Feinstein says to the youth, "I've been doing this for 30 years. I know what I'm doing. You come in here to say it has to be my way or the highway, and I don't respond to that. I've gotten elected. I just ran. I was elected by almost a million vote plurality. I know what I'm doing. So, maybe people should listen to me a little bit." That's her response to the youth that are inheriting the world while she was already, in her 80s and didn't care, right? Doesn't care about the youth.
No respect.
Right. "Listen to me. I know what I'm doing. People have voted me in. You little children." When she asked one of the youth in the group who was pushing the point that they were inheriting the earth and that they needed our politicians to lead meaningful climate environmental laws to combat climate catastrophes. While she's asking, Feinstein asks her how old she is. The girl said she's 16. Feinstein's response, "Well, then you didn't vote for me." So, Feinstein, she's dead.
Yep.
And may somebody be in that seat that listens to the youth, that cares about the future of this world, that doesn't play politics as normal. Is this a pragmatic piece of legislation that I'm going to be able to get to something or other and I can put an accolade in my checkbox? Or am I really going to do some damn good for this world with the political power I have? Because what good is the political power you have if you don't use it for anything but aggrandizing your own damn self? So,
I'm telling what
rest in peace, but rest and stay out of the way of the youth who are inheriting this world. So that's what I have to say about Feinstein.
right on. Well, and speaking of Democrats, they also have a situation with Goldie McGoldbars. I can't remember his name, from New Jersey, who apparently is going to fight.
Menendez.
Thank you. Who is going to fight tooth and nail to keep his position. Well, the difference between the Republicans and the Democrats is the Democrats are saying, "Hey, you're really corrupt. How about you leave?" And that's not what the Republicans say to Boebert and Gates and their whole clown car.
Boebert and Gates. I'm so glad that you pulled up those two moral compasses.
Yeah.
Considering what they have both been just flat out caught doing. With lewd and lascivious behavior at a children's play and soliciting underage girls for escort servicing.
Macking on teen girls, and there he is, showing his face.
So I just got to say, wow, you picked a couple of winners there. Thank you for that random pull from the Republican clown car, as you say.
Yeah.
So this is now Bridge to a Better World. This is the live stream that we do every Friday morning at 9 o'clock. Technology God's willing, and I'm so glad that the little spinning circle finally spun on over. Thank you all for joining us this morning. Please hit the like button for this video. Subscribe if you haven't already subscribed to our channel. Share this around in the social medias world. Tell your friends and family. Tell your neighbors. Here we are, a couple of folks living in the Pacific Northwest, living in Portland, Little C, Commie, and I don't know, Little Circle A anarchists. And we are really happy to be with you on Friday morning so that we can have some rant control. All right. That said, yes, I do have a tarot reading for this morning. And before I get to that, I want to just say that we are moving into October. We are moving into this last of the harvest holiday cycles, and that's Samhain coming up on the 31st. Many people know it as Halloween. It is the time of our beloved our beloved departed, our dearly departed. It's the time of honoring and working with our ancestors. And to that end, I have a class that I'm offering on the 25th of this month. I will be putting out some materials about that class. Just for a couple of hours, we can come together on the 25th of October, and I can talk about making altars for your dearly departed and how to make offerings and invite them to be a part of our lives. And so that's coming up on October 25th. If you're interested, you can go ahead and leave a comment below. You can also contact me. You can contact me actually at my tarot, my consultation site it's how do we say, it's being reconstructed. I have a friend working on my site, but the contact form still works if you want to contact me through that. AniRavenHaines.com. There's a contact form. You can also leave a comment below, and we can start communicating. Other classes coming up, tarot classes, tarot consultations can be yours, personally and individually if you'd like. So anyways, what I do have for tarot today, read it and weep. Okay, so what I got is the Four of Swords, the Tower, and the Wheel of Fortune.
Whoa.
So if folks heard me on KBOO yesterday morning, I was with Lisa Loving on her Keeping It Real radio show. and we were talking about witchy stuff in our time. And I had said then that I thought the card that best um, described that was the best allegory for our current political times is the tower. And many people think that the tower is very, very frightening, and it's unsettling at best, right? It's unsettling. But I actually kind of like the tower card. And I'm going to go into my feelings about how this card pertains to the world we're in right now. The tower is there to remind us that some things cannot and should not be sustained, right? That the i- that there is a natural cycle to things. All things come to an end. And when we see the tower, we know that end or the interruption is going to be pretty quick and immediate. Quick and immediate. It's going to it's not a gradual change. It's a transition point. And so the tower card is as soon as I pull it, this phrase, "That which is not sustainable should not be sustained," comes to me. And basically, when you come up with something that is not sustainable, trying to make it work, trying to patch it up, trying to make it go again is of limited usefulness. It's of limited, you just shouldn't be wasting energy like that. It's frustrating and it wastes energy. Best instead to figure out what we're going to do to respond to sudden changes. When I see the tower, I always, think of also the phrase "the center cannot hold," and it's because the center of our particular society is rotten to the core, and it cannot hold. We need, in fact, to reconstruct. We need to rebuild our culture so that it is not exploitive, it is not extractive, that it is based in mutual support and the interdependence of all beings. That is the culture that we are aiming for. That's the better world we are bridging to. And we know that's why you're joining us. You also believe in this better world. When I think of the tower and I think of the center not holding, I think of the Yeats poem, The Second Coming. And the fact that I've pulled the tower 3 times this week, I'm just, it's up. This energy is up. There's transition in the air and we feel it, we know it. There's an unsettling process, right? And I wanna just sort of go over a little bit of, Yeats's poem. I love this poem. I love The Second Coming. With its lines, "Turning and turning in the widening gyre, the falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart and the center cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. The blood-dimmed tide is loosed, and everywhere the ceremony of innocence is drowned. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity." That's the first stanza of Yeats's poem. And it's good to understand the context. He wrote it after World War One, this horrific slaughter that the world had not seen the likes of World War One before. There was also the pandemic, the 1918 pandemic, where his wife nearly died. Um, and so he was pretty freaked out. We're going to say that. But I also want to say he's also the product of an extraordinarily privileged history. He was privileged through generational wealth. He absolutely believed in the superiority of himself and his class to rule the world. He was an absolute dyed-in-the-wool imperialist, right? Just because he was a mystic and wrote groovy poetry, the man's politics were abysmal. And when he liked Mussolini, right? He admired Mussolini and despised democratic movements around the world because he did not think that inferior men should be ruling their own countries when the great Brits could do it instead. So in that light, when you look at turning and turning in the widening gyre, well, the widening gyre is it the course of history jumping its tracks and saying that maybe the age of imperialism is coming to a firm middle, right? Maybe he saw his generational wealth, and those democratic movements actually sort of up and coming. He saw the writing on the wall. Um, we want that gyre to widen. We want, history to not absolutely repeat itself, but to like a broken record, you hit it and you get the needle moving again to the next groove so it can actually get into some progress. That is what I'm thinking. I take great heart in his warning. Um, when we talk about the falcon cannot hear the falconer, if if a wild animal who is controlled by its master can't hear its master, it returns to its natural state, and that is what I think, we can hope for ourselves. We can, shake off the slumber, shake off the yokes of our servitude, and claim our birthright. Do I think that's gonna happen this next week? No, no. I'd love it. I'll hold open that it could. We could have, the absolute cultural revolution in the next week, but I don't think that that's probably the case. So, look at that, my alarm goes off now. So, but this is the thing, this is what we are striving for. And so, I wanted to just sort of put that out there, that when we see the tower, I think, look, it's the end of, we are looking at, the end of the system. It cannot be sustained. There are abruptions in this system, and we know that. We know that they're coming. How could they not? The system is not sustainable. So, over the next short while, maybe not the next week, but over the next short while, I am expecting to see major shifts in power. I am expecting to see abruptions and interruptions in the regular, what, as Marlena Smith would say, the realpolitik, vis-a-vis the milieu. Uh, um,
I like the cat tower. It's lightning outside, and the cats are like, "We are me out of here."
Absolutely. And in a traditional tarot, it is a tower with a crown on it that is being blasted by the lightning. And you see rulers, sort of a banker and a monarch, falling from its windows. I'm okay with that image. I'm okay with that image. Let the crowns fall, let the entrenched rulers tumble, and let the people actually have our will. So the let's look at, we have the Four of Swords. The Four of Swords is a card that calls for rest. It talks about needing to take a step back and understand that it's important to take care of yourself. It's important to take care of your own health. It's important to rest when you need to rest. It's also important to check out and make sure that you are actually resting and you're not just sort of paralyzed with being overwhelmed. That doesn't count as resting. It might be inaction, but it's not resting. And so do what you can to take care of yourself, to let jumbled thoughts settle, to try to get some rest and relaxation in, because chances are good there's been a lot of worry lately and it's time to let it settle out. And then we have the Wheel of Fortune. And the Wheel of Fortune comes up when fate takes a hand. We don't really know where things are going, but we know that cycles are ever changing. They're cycles. So there's a line in a Farron song, one of my favorite singer-songwriters, that says, a friend tried to find me. She saw through to my wheel. She said, "You're now on the bottom. It's either that or the top." And so look at how cycles are playing out in your life. Rest when you need to rest. If things have been sort of crummy and disjointed for you, know that this is a time that things can open and get better, that nothing is permanent. We have the Tower and the Wheel of Fortune, both of them talking about how things are impermanent, things change, things move when they need to move. And it is really up to us to find a way to respond and react to that in a way that's going to be good for us, take care of our hearts, take care of our minds, take care of each other. And that's what I have for Tarot this week.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much. Please do hit the like button. Thank you all for being with us this morning. And we will be back next week. God is willing, and the creek don't rise, or we don't have an inundation.
Yeah, we don't need no inundations. Well, our love goes out to you and to all the ships at sea. Bye-bye.
Cheerio.
Thanks for the comments. I like comments.